Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Super Tees video. And I've been having an absolute blast on Arms Warrior. I picked it up, I've been gearing it up, and I'm pretty much reaching the finish line in terms of powering it up. So now I'm starting to produce some content around it. And if you're interested as well, I'm streaming on twitch.tv/SupaTees, and I'm doing viewer games. So if you're interested in playing with me or interested in maybe trying to help yourself gear up a tune or push to another rating bracket, I have been able to help pretty much everybody who I have reached out to get to where they want to go. So if you're interested in trying to learn some PvP, that's going to be a great place for you to learn and to participate. And my warrior's a big, strong boy now at this point. I've been having a great time playing Venthyr. I do think that Kyrian is likely the most competitive option, with Necrolord being a great pickup if you're playing cleave comps. Kyrian's probably the most well-rounded in terms of competitive play, but I really like Condemn. It smooths out the class for me in a way that allows me to still maintain mobility due to the Death Sentence's charge range, and I like the feeling of building up for a massive Mortal Strike hit by using the legendary that every time you use Execute, it stacks up for your next Mortal Strike to hit harder. I really like the way that combos together and the way that it feels. It makes me think the way that I'm playing, so I enjoy it because of that. It really feels good in twos. I think where I might start to lose out on it is threes, but at the moment, most of my focus has been twos anyways. Hopefully 9.1.5 comes out sooner than later. That way I can just flip around, because Warrior's got a ton of really fun covenants if you're really thinking about picking one up. But in this clip specifically, I'm going to be playing with a Mistweaver Monk who has 40,000 HP, so it's very low. So I need to be able to carry the Mistweaver. I need to be able to protect the Mistweaver from the Windwalker, because this is going to be very difficult. Against Windwalkers, you want to save your Intimidating Shout for their Storm, Earth, and Fire and their Zwen. So you just want to kind of pay attention to when they start popping out a ton of images. It's generally a good idea to save your Blade Storm to immune their grapple weapon during your Warbreaker. So right here I see Paralyze on my Mistweaver, and I stun the enemy Windwalker right before he gets in range. This forces a trinket because a Windwalker wants to land a stun. I should have stayed back away from it. I was anticipating it, but I'm still just waiting to use Intimidating Shout if I need to. My Mistweaver uses Portal, so now they're nowhere near the Windwalker. There's no need to use my Fear here. There's no need to panic and overreact. They've only used one charge of Storm, Earth, and Fire, and there is no Zwen. Now Zwen has come out. Storm, Earth, and Fire is still up, but they're attacking me, a D-stance warrior. They don't have a stun lock, so I'm just kind of hovering over and then moving in for a fear, fearing the priest, pets, and Windwalker, totally shutting down their cooldowns, and then switching back to the Windwalker as soon as I can with Execute charges, and then Heroic Leaping back. And here I use Blade Storm during the Warbreaker. This way I can't be grapple weaponed, and I can just cleave down two targets. Utilizing maybe Sweeping Strikes here would be wise as well if targets are going to stay stacked, but I think I was anticipating the Monk to leave. And this is where you have kind of a tough decision. As a warrior, do I want to go back and protect my Mistweaver or go after the priest? I decided to come back and protect the Mistweaver because this Mistweaver is incredibly undergeared. Here I let the Paralyze sit. I don't want to break any crowd control that my partner is trying to use to recover in that position, but I just want to make sure that I'm keeping the Windwalker snared. Piercing Howl is a super underutilized ability, I think, whenever I was encountering other warriors, is just this massive snare, 70% movement speed. It can be great for catching people or slowing attackers. You really want to be paying attention to that and utilizing it as much as possible. Here I use Fist of Fury here I use Stormbolt aggressively. This might not be the wisest move because you can use Stormbolt to stop Spinning Crane Kick. You can use Stormbolt to stop Fist of Fury. You can use Stormbolt to try and just block attacks. And I think generally as a warrior, you're usually thinking of yourself as a defender. There are times where you can get a bit aggressive, but for the most part in this matchup, Windwalker is going to be the aggressor, and you're going to be kind of playing goalie or defender and blocking their attacks. So when they use Fist of Fury, if you don't have Stormbolt, you can still overpower, and that will go through the Turbo Fist or the parry effect during Fist of Fury. So you want to make sure that you've got a couple of overpower charges saved up if you know that you can't stop a Fist of Fury. So that way you'll still get some damage out during that time. Here I see Malediction being casted, as well as Mind Games. So I come back towards my Monk. I'm going to use Piercing Howl on the Windwalker, and I'm just getting ready to intervene. Here I could choose to not attack into Karma. I'm just kind of getting ready. I try to intervene, but now my Monk ports away. So I decide to use Stun on Priest and get aggressive. This again might not be the wisest move. It's kind of more of a YOLO decision. to stun the priest and try and go for damage on the monk. It really didn't get too much value other than Ring of Peace was forced from the Windwalker. So I think my Stormbolt usage could still be better in terms of defense rather than offense. Here I accidentally slip off the side. You got to be maybe a bit careful with how much mobility Venthyr has, as you're going to be going all across the map. Charge into Sharpened Blade Mortal Strike, and that's going to be a massive hit of damage. I really like running the Warbreaker talent in 2v2 because it just combos well with Venthyr. If you've stacked up 2 stacks of Condemn right before you charge, you get the Warbreaker hit as well as a stacked up Mortal Strike hit, and that combo burst damage can really catch someone off guard. Here you can see Grapple Weapon was utilized, and I didn't have Blade Storm. It might have been better to just wait for Blade Storm to come off cooldown, or make sure that the monk is in a stun when I go for the Warbreaker. That way that I'm not going to get grapple weaponed. And you really want to pay attention to making sure that your Warbreaker connects to the target. So there's multiple ways to do that. It's either stun the target, that's going to disarm you. Use Die by the Sword to immune it, which works on all disarms except Windwalker. Here we see Storm, Earth, and Fire. We're going to charge over, and we're going to stun the monk on the cooldowns. We could use Intimidating Shout, but again, it's not the Zwen. We can see that as 12 seconds, 11 seconds, that number with 10 seconds on it right now. That's the Zwen Tiger. That's like the really big scary combo, along with that pink one, the Storm, Earth, and Fire. That's usually when I like to use my Intimidating Shout. Sometimes you have no choice, especially because I'm playing with somebody who is very undergeared. Sometimes you have to use it before that point. So basically just getting ready. I see Storm, Earth, and Fire. Now I see Zwen. So Trinket, fear everything, and I get value out of fearing the priest there as well, which is well worth my trinket. My trinket will always line up with the Zwen now, which is great, and we can allow our Mistweaver to get away during the leg sweep there, holding onto their medallion and feel a little bit more safe. So I'm just making sure that I'm keeping Hamstring up and trying my best to max up my big hit. Here you can see he uses Fist of Fury right as I Warbreaker, which is really unfortunate. Again, Warbreaker usage, even watching my play back, which I would recommend for you as well. If you're playing, make sure you're recording with OBS or something. You can go back and look at the way that you're playing. Like the way that I'm watching myself in this game specifically, I need to be lining my Stormbolts up with my Warbreaker, or I need to be lining my Stormbolts up to stop the Fist of Fury of the Windwalker. Here again, I just kind of go for a willy-nilly Stormbolt, although it does get a lot of pressure and a lot of damage onto the Windwalker monk. It also keeps him away from the Mistweaver. That Stormbolt wasn't the worst. It's really a tough choice, but I think that it would be better used lined up with Warbreaker unless you don't have another option. So I think in this position I have another option. Here's Paralyze on the healer. So I use Dora's Shadows to disorient the Windwalker during that Paralyze. A Windwalker setup will all come off of that Paralyze on the target that they're trying to go after, or as an off target and then the other target they're trying to attack. But that Paralyze is a big cue that they want to set up something because they want to close that distance with that ability. So using crowd control on them before they get to the target can disrupt their attempts, and then your partner can just run away from them and avoid them a lot more easily. And with this team, especially with a Discipline Priest, the main goal is definitely survival. You'll be able to run a Discipline Priest out of mana sooner than later. In this position, trying to protect my Mistweaver, I end up getting mind controlled. I had Spell Reflect available for this, so utilizing Spell Reflect to prevent these mind controls on yourself is going to be something that you're going to want to pay attention to, that I should have done in this position. It would have got me back into the fight a lot better. This is what I mean by watching your gameplay back, looking at the things that you're doing, looking at the things that you're not doing, to specifically improve the way that you're playing. I've already got a lot of assessments to improve my own play just from watching this, and maybe it's embarrassing. You might be thinking, oh my god, he's so bad at Warrior, why am I watching this? But at the same time, if you've picked up a new class and you're just starting to play, if you're expecting to play perfectly, you really you got to doubt that a little bit. It's way better to look at the mistakes and be like, all right, I made mistakes, but I'm capable of learning from this and then improving and getting better in the future. That's going to be your best approach. Here I get aggressive on the Priest. I use a Warbreaker on the Priest. I could use Blade Storm here, in which I do because I'm expecting to get grappled. But with Barrier, that light shield on the ground, the Priest isn't going to take any more damage. So it's time to come back to my Mistweaver, Stormbolt the Monk during the Storm, Earth, and Fire. So this is a good Stormbolt. Stops Fist of Fury, stops the cooldown damage onto my Mistweaver, gives the Mistweaver time to get away. Once the Mistweaver is portaled away, switch into D-Stance so that you're going to be the next target, right? This Windwalker is going to punch whatever comes next to it. So I want to kind of soak up some hits in D-Stance and reduce the amount of pressure that's going to be put onto me as a result, so my Mistweaver doesn't have to panic. So whenever you know that you've protected your target, they've got away, Switching a D stance is a good idea. I would be absolutely dead right now if I didn't. And this is where a panic fear comes in, right? There's a Stormwrath and Fire, there's a Shadow Fiend, I think, and I use Intimidating Shout, but this is before the Zwen. And this can happen when dampening starts getting higher, and dampening stacks a lot faster in 2v2. But I was also getting a lot more aggressive onto the Discipline Priest than the Mistweaver, or than the Windwalker Monk, with how low the mana was. I just really wanted to close the game out. And if you're tunneling a Priest, it can generally be a good idea to kick Smite, kick Penance. Then the priest will have to use Shadow Mend. If they're using Shadow Mend, they're going to run out of mana the most. And then when they come out of stuns, they almost always want to use an instant big heal like Radiance or a Rapture Powered Shield. So if you save a Sharpened Blade for that period of time, you can really put them behind. Here I used my Trinket aggressively. So I popped Die by the Sword preemptively, expecting the monk to punish my Trinket. And by using my Die by the Sword like this, I completely immune the Zwen the Tiger, and it allows me to stay on top of the priest. So it's kind of a risky maneuver. The Windwalker's win condition is killing me with no Trinket in a leg sweep, but I know that if I Trinket, they expect that as the win condition, so I can then punish them by using Die by the Sword. They're thinking I'm an idiot, right? I've Trinketed before their go. So long as I can actually end the game before that point in time hits, I'm now basically forcing them to hit me because they're thinking like there's no Trinket. I got to keep hitting this target. But then Die by the Sword comes up. I'm not going to take any damage from the Windwalker. I can immune the leg sweep, and I can get the uptime to finish the target on the priest. That was the way that I was thinking in that position. That's in a very aggressive kind of YOLO playstyle. Maybe I'm thinking more like this in my play because I'm just playing with viewers. We're just doing chat games. We're playing with a lot of undergeared people, so we're doing a lot of reckless stuff. I've actually been enjoying playing recklessly, but I do think if you want to start pushing rating, that focusing on defense, focusing on like being this shutdown machine, and just blocking everything and never letting anything hit you, you're going to have the most success with Arms Warrior. But at the same time, it's a class that lets you flex. You can go ballistic, you can play defense, and I've been really enjoying it. So if you liked this video, leave it with a thumbs up if it helped you learn anything, or maybe figure out how to critique your own gameplay. I think that's a skill, a very underrated skill that a lot of people don't develop because it takes time. You got to record your games. You got to watch your games back. You got to be willing to look at the mistakes that you're making that you maybe tried to forget, because it's not always that great to be like, oh man, I messed up all this stuff. But again, the way that you want to approach that is, yeah, I made some mistakes. I'm new to this. I haven't done this before. Or maybe I haven't really addressed the mistakes, so I'm still making them, even if you're not a beginner. But now I'm looking at them. I know what they are. I'm going to try to identify them in the future to clean them up, and then reward yourself every time that you do, right? You might play a game where 3 of those Stormbolts were good, the 4th one wasn't. Don't get so hung up with the 4th one. You made an improvement. You're 3 out of 4 instead of 0 out of 4. That's definitely an improvement. Remember, progress over perfection. But other than that, I'm really looking to grind out a lot of games on the Warrior. I've been having a great time on it. Hopefully 9.1.5 comes out, and then we can start playing more alts. We can start playing some different covenants, because really that's when the game is unlocked its full potential for me, at least. I don't know about you. But other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I will see you in the next one.